Good day, dear participants of the forum. My name is Olga Dudar. I am one of the managers of the project Chernobyl Lessons and Lessons Learned from Chernobyl project. And I would like to present the summary of what we do in order to have lessons learned summary. This project, which I run, is continued. We have launched it recently, and we already have received feedback from professors, from teachers and students, and we are open to have a wider uh, introduction of our project and our lessons in the curriculum. It is important to continue raising this topic for Ukraine and for the world. And I would like to say thank you very much, all of you who have joined this project, colleagues who were writing the script, who initiated this very important work, and thank you, film crew. First, I would like to explain why I joined this project.
Because of COVID epidemic and people have to work remotely, we had the task to create quality videos for educational process. This concerned not only students but also teachers, and it's not just because of the pandemic, but also digitalization of the educational process, and also because there are students who cannot use proper schools if they live in the east of Ukraine. So we also have environmental problems, and they grow, and the young generation needs to understand that it's up to them to solve these. And so if or unless we do something about it, Ukraine may lose its reputation and popularity in the world. What do children know about the accident at Chernobyl NPP? I'm sure that colleagues at schools, we talk about this every year, but the time is limited, and teachers, students, not all have quality information about the events of 1886. So it's not always that educational system is the source of competent information. Some read about this from various sources, and not always it's Ukrainian content. A lot of it comes from Russia, and it is often distorted. So in addition to schools, hopefully teachers use ready-made texts, existing texts, and of course when Chernobyl TV show was aired, it piqued the interest, and people began to ask questions whether what was shown actually meets the real assessment. Plus, some people went to visit the site. Others have relatives who were involved. And in other words, sometimes impressions about Chernobyl are disorganized and full of stereotypes and distorted perception. Most importantly, they are not, they don't form the foundation for critical thinking. That's why we tried to create a system which would tell people about consequences, what happened, and pique interest. Why this is important? It's because it's important to form our culture of communication. And my thought is certainly my personal opinion, but one of the problems of our society and educational system is broken communications. Even young people don't believe that being more active, they will become someone who can make a difference. But experience of 1986 shows that when dangerous to people events like Chernobyl accident happen, uh, government often responds inadequately. And a good example is how the Soviet government responded to this accident. But how this affects the modern young people. And because COVID situation has deteriorated, a lot of researchers say that these broken communications are due to people don't trust the government. And so when there are recommendations made by the government, like to vaccinate, people don't trust them. Or based on events at Chernobyl. And as a result, we see what we see. So it's important to form the understanding and perception among the students that our practical daily steps have this negative consequence. And if we can't affect the results of Chernobyl accident, we can make sure that what we see on this photograph never happens. It's very painful. It's painful for children. At school where I teach, we try to involve students and teachers to sort the rubbish. But even collecting scrap paper is hard. But when students want to do something useful the for environment, it's not always supported. But we need to say that even though people don't always trust the government, overall, the consequences of Chernobyl accident were delayed. Events of 1991 are due to the fact that we have accumulated mistrust for the government, and we need to explain things because we have information that vaccination is terrible, it leads to death, and so on. When teachers demonstrate this, but there are materials that would affect people so that students understand why we need some projects involving volunteers. It's a very wide range why we should talk about this. I'd like to show you that we not only develop theoretical material, but we also tried to make it more fun and more attractive. And this is Ion, who is sort of like a middleman between teachers and students, this cartoon character. This is to help children to perceive video information. So I'd like to thank the media people who helped us, because when people from the screen tell you that it's important to analyze the consequences, it's one of the focuses that show that this topic is important. We tried to use this as much as possible. Now, what are advantages of this partnership? And we involved very high-ranking experts, but even for small consequences, depending on what research we do, it differs. But we tested all the materials. They don't contain fake information. We tried to avoid stereotypes, and we verified information about our experts. We used reliable partners, and we tried to also take into account children's preferences. We tried to keep it simple, accessible, and we covered various topics which would keep the audience interested, involved, and we use various methods and technologies when we talk about responsibility of government, human rights. We recommend people to watch additional videos, archival materials. It's a whole holistic approach which shows how important this topic is, and we try to design materials tailored to various age groups. Starting from the first year at school and all the way to the 11th. And we cover both scientific aspects as well as human involvement and social activities. And this shows that Chernobyl is something that helps us to transform our lives today. And for me, as a teacher, it's important to see that the timing is right and that this can be used to let children expand their horizons and understand this issue better, and encourage children to read more about it and give them tasks that they can do. We have a whole large group of teachers who were involved. We have our channel, it's called Chernobyl Lessons, and you can even leave your comments there if you like. The school should fight off stereotypes and fakes. People say it's nice to go to Chernobyl and take a look, take a tour. But I often ask people, what do you know what you're going to see there? Why you want to see that? For most people, it's tourist experience. But the fact that it's a place of memory, a very small percentage of people actually perceive it like this. For me, Chernobyl is a good example of how totalitarian system works and how human rights are trodden. And when we talk to children and we feel, in most cases, most students want to search for alternatives. And we can't have a magic wand and cleanse Chernobyl site. Future generations and students will need to think about possible research that can be conducted there. So this whole bundle of tasks can be performed only when the society is united and when the environmental awareness is quite high. So we could also form the environmental culture and see what a common person, a man in the street, can contribute to this. And if we do some tasks, and when you repeat something more than 21 times, it becomes a fact for many people. One of the tasks is to show the need for scientific research. We need to spread information. Now, in addition to our videos, there are other videos on YouTube that children can watch. And if you want to access Chernobyl, if you can read scientific articles and so on, it's a great prospect for work. It's a great opportunity to carry out this research. And quality interviews. I asked some students to tell us what they think about additional videos and interviews. It's an additional moment, it's an additional reason to get people interested and not to believe everything that can be obtained from the mass media. I probably can't speak about this early, but if our viewers and children think about this and understand things, that would be a step in the right direction. I think the children writers, book writers, should get interested and write some books about it. And we should also expand our educational tools, because the more the modern material we have, the more it is, the less it is attractive to the students. And also, the better the work of the authors of the books, from the standpoint of history and a legal side of things. It won't be just to explain, it's not enough to explain what radiation is, but to rather give some recommendations and give students some material that they can analyze. And it's important to understand better why it's important for our society and what to do next.
It is not only to commemorate it once a year and to say that it was a tragedy of Ukrainian nation, but to have a meaningful approach to addressing that issue from the past. I hope I did generate some interest to this topic by my presentation. I would like to encourage you to review this video and recommend it to your friends, colleagues, so that they can spread it among the young generation, students and youth, and it would be a meaningful completion of our educational target.